Ben Cross is the founder of More, an execution-led development and delivery business focused on unlocking value in existing buildings.
On this episode of the Future Workplace podcast, Chris and Ben discuss the impact and importance of real estate in an always evolving workplace.
Did you have that moment where you just went, actually, I think I know where this path's going to take me?
I sort of saw a gap in the market. I just sort of thought, well, if not now, when?
Yeah.
Making a return in today's environment is based on making really good decisions at the right time.
Gotcha. Just unpack this for me, because I can't get my head around it.
I've always known I'm a lot more resilient than most people.
What's this journey look like for return on investment?
The way in which these projects have been managed hasn't really caught up with the economic environment that we're in.
Your network is monumental. And it wasn't until I was, 25 that I finally thought, actually, I think I know what I want. Did you have that moment?
I got to a point where I was like, where am I going to go?
Yeah.
You're never going to earn any money working for someone else.
Yeah.
More is also an attitude.
Right.
Like it's also a way of thinking about solving problems.
How did you go from that to making a decision, actually, I want to start my own firm and we're going to put it all on the line?
But the reality is that what I believe happens is
Hello and welcome to the Future Workplace podcast. Now, the idea behind the Future Workplace podcast is that we bring experts on to talk about what the future workplace is. I'm sure if you've been following this for a little while now, you'll know the caliber of experts that we bring on. And today's caliber of expert is at the top echelons, top 5% of advisors. I am absolutely delighted to welcome in Ben Cross, founder of More. Hello.
Hi.
Welcome, but top echelons.
Top five.
I've set
top
it.
Five, top five.
How many are there? 5. I've set it up there. So let's do it. Welcome to Maidenhead. Thanks for coming in. I appreciate you spending a little bit of time with us and kind of offering your guidance and expertise to our listeners. Let's explain why I put you in the top 5. Mm-hmm. Tell me your story. Yorkshire lad.
Yeah.
Take me right back. Tell me your story from childhood to how you ended up in Essex, delivering some of the amazing things that you deliver.
Yeah. So this could be the whole podcast. So I'll just be really short. And first of all, thank you for having me on today. So our offices are actually based in central London, but now I live in Essex with my girls, my wife, and 2 children. And actually, can't forget about the cat. But I grew up in Yorkshire. Was really a creative problem solver. I think. Well, that sounds quite trite now, but with a bit of reversionist history, that's what I would do. Like I would always be taking things apart and putting them back together again. I got a classic car when my first car got written off because I was just sort of fascinated with how the car worked and doing my own bits and pieces on it. It was a Triumph Herald, if anyone knows what one of those cars is. But really, I've always been curious and always been interested in design and creativity. And my parents were like, Ben would make a great architect. Let him study architecture. He'll make loads of money. He'll do something he loved. And they were right on 50% of that. Like it was something that I loved. The other half of it was you just don't make any money in architecture at all. It takes a bloody long time. And so when I left home, I went to Newcastle, studied there, did my undergraduate, worked alongside that, which I think we might probably come back to. I then moved to Oxford and did my postgraduate there, and then eventually moved to London. And quite quickly realised, having then actually fully qualified, that I wasn't really solving the problem that I wanted to be solving. I was sort of window dressing a commercial solution. So we were working with great clients, be it Stanhope, be it British Land, be it Derwent at the time. And I was just realizing that all the fun stuff was happening before I was getting involved. Just say here's your little bucket of capex to spend and go make something interesting. And so on one hand, I sort of looked at that and I said, well, that's the problem I want to be solving. I want to be in early, defining the brief, maybe, making some decisions around what we're going to be doing, but fundamentally looking at more than a technical problem to solve, and actually looking at the whole ecosystem of how do all of these things happen? Like, how do you buy a building? How do you redevelop a scheme? How do you make money? And the other half of it was wanting to be a bit more master of my own destiny. Have a bit more cash in the bank, because ultimately, being an architect, you don't get that. So that is in some ways that's nearly a 40-year history.
Yeah.
But what it was that I came to a point where I'd spent nearly 20 years in the industry, probably half of it as an architect or learning to be an architect and then practicing, and then the other half of it in real estate, and realizing that having the combined skill set of being able to bring the two together, being able to technically understand how you solve a problem and also then how you make money out of that was a bit of a secret sauce. And particularly in today's environment where time is money, construction is at an all-time high, the cost of borrowing is still pretty high. Well, certainly higher than it was 5 years ago. There's a lot of volatility around, obviously, currently. Like making a return in today's environment is based on making really good decisions at the right time.
Gotcha.
Not cooking the books financially, or necessarily cutting corners on projects. So I saw a gap in the market. I thought, well, there's no better thing to do than actually to try it myself.
Yeah.
And that's really the space that we inhabit as a firm. We're sort of an expert generalist. We know how to put projects together financially. We know how to structure them. We know where the risks are. We know how to procure them. But fundamentally, we understand that being able to justifiably create a return on investment on commercial projects, you need more than a degree in real estate to do that. And whilst that might be quite niche today, I think it's really the future of commercial refurbishments and commercial development. And I feel incredibly proud to have be working now with so many great people in the industry who share that vision of what we do. But it's what I get up.
Well, you do. Your network is monumental. Some of the people that you know and some of the people that we've had on the podcast and stuff like that. I want to define a little bit more on in a few minutes. And specifically define your terminology that you used a moment ago, which was project. So I want to define what is a project, because a project is different to a project to what is the AV and the technology. It's a different thing for everybody. I want to define what that means, and as we continue this conversation, I think the first thing I want to do is in that kind of 20-year period when you were in the big city and kind of finding your feet. Everyone starts off, right? Young 20s, kind of just figuring it out, figuring themselves out, and certainly for me, it wasn't until I was about 25 in the military, still painting myself green. And it wasn't until I was about 25 that I finally thought, actually, I think I know what I want. Mm-hmm. Did you have that moment? Because you've obviously gone down this route of architecture. You've gone down Newcastle, Oxford, moved to London, young lad, not earning the money that you wanted to earn and what your parents thought that you would earn as an architect. Did you have that moment where you just went, actually, I think I know where this path's going to take me?
No. There are a couple of conversations I remember having with people around wanting to either move from the built environment into real estate. Which is
what's the difference for the layman?
So the built environment, I would say, is almost like almost like kind of the intellectual way in which a lot of the consultants and engineers and architects and design teams look at the world in which we live.
Right.
It's almost like an urban thing. It's like planning. It's like design.
Yeah.
Architecture.
Yeah.
Real estate is like making money.
Gotcha.
Quite quite straightforward.
Yeah.
Or managing assets, maybe as well. And where I sat at that point in time was, I don't think I ever looked at it and said I want to go from being an architect to a developer because I want to solve more problems, shall we say?
Yeah.
I think at the time I looked at it and I said, well, actually, I'd just like to make some more money.
Yeah, of course.
But I'd always known that I was always hardworking. Before setting up my own business and having children and doing everything like that, I used to do a lot of sport,
right?
A lot of like long distance cycling, running. So I know I've got a lot of endurance and a lot of. I beat myself up a lot about the only person who can make me better at what I do is me.
Yeah.
So I've always known I'm a lot more. I would say a lot more resilient than most people, as you probably know. Like you put yourself in the locker.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
So I don't think there was ever really a point in time where it was like a nirvana. That's what I want to do.
Why? So, what was the trigger that you've gone? I'm employed. This is fine. I'm earning a salary. I've got young children. I'm married. I've got commitments, mortgage, all this kind of stuff. How did you go from that to making a decision? Actually, I'm going to start my own firm, and we're going to put it all on the line.
Yeah. So I wanted to create my own business to build the business I wanted to work for.
Understood.
And that means actually everything that we do is not driven by financial return.
Yeah.
As a business, because my view is you work hard, you're great at what you do, you're creating value, you should be remunerated for that.
Yeah.
I think perhaps I didn't necessarily get a lot of that historically. Yeah,
Gotcha.
either because as an architect your balance sheet isn't that healthy. So and you've got to work really, really hard. So you're never getting quite paid what you think you're worth.
You're not getting the return on your
because the revenue coming into the business is low.
Yeah.
And it was perhaps a point in time where I had got to a position where I have always acted like a principal.
Yeah.
Whether I've worked for someone else or not. And for me, there was almost this inflection point where everyone thought I was a principal, but I wasn't. And I got a little bit disenfranchised with just structure and vision.
So you had the itch, right?
Yeah.
Which is the itch that I had.
Yeah, I got to a point where I was like, where am I going to go?
Yeah.
Because I love what I'm doing. I'm going to throw myself into absolutely anything. If the next job comes along, I'll throw myself into that job. That's my character.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I want to do. And in some ways, I looked in the rearview mirror. Was like, well, actually, there's a pretty decent wave of support for the way in which I've sort of seen the world and the things that I do and how I act and the generosity that I try to give to a lot of people in the industry. You said I know a lot of people. I would say I don't know. I like to know as many people as possible, as well as I can. The time that's given to me. So I just sort of thought, well, if not now, when?
Yeah, of course.
And it wasn't that it wasn't like this was my destiny. It just sort of happened. And I think there were enough pillars there.
How was the conversation with your wife? I had the same conversation.
I think Amy's response was, well, I'm not going to be able to stop you, am I?
You would know. It's happening.
And there's when Amy and I moved into an apartment together in London, we lived just off the Cali Road in in Islington, and we would, go walking around the parks there, and we'd go up to Highgate and go to the pub and whatever. There was a guy we met in the pub who owned his own haulage company, drove up in an Aston Martin, parked it on the double yellow lines and got out. And I was just like, who is this?
Oh my Lord, what a prick.
And somehow ended up managing to talk to him. We were 26, 25 at the time, paying £1,400 a month on rent, eating soup and frozen garlic bread from Morrison's, being like, just trying to make ends meet. And this guy was like, "You've got to start your own business. You're never gonna earn any money working for someone else."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, well, there's just no way I could ever start a business.
Yeah.
I don't have the financial means. I don't have the experience. I don't have the connections, etc." But it's a situation I always come back to because I always remember it.
Yeah, that's
I always
funny.
remember this, and the proof of that was in the first year that we set up the business. Our revenue far exceeded, and it was me.
Yeah.
As a consultancy, our revenue massively exceeded what my salary had been.
Yeah.
And a lot of that was through generous support of either people that I worked to or connections that I had and whatever. But there was a bit of me that was like, wonder why I didn't do this earlier.
Yeah.
But for me, I suppose it's the nature of who I am. I like to know I can solve the problem before having a go at it.
And everything happens at the time that it's meant to happen. So like you there, at 24, you didn't feel like you had the tools to be able to solve the issues. Mm-hmm. At 35, you probably were at a point where you're like, okay, I probably now can solve those issues now. So I think everything happens at the time that it's meant to happen.
Yeah.
Because I could go, I wish I'd have started Spore when I was 25. Like I said to you a minute ago, it wasn't until I was 25 that I started maturing. So everything kind of happens at the moment it's meant to happen. Mm. Which brings us into a nice segue into more. The name. Talk to me about it.
So More stands for Modern Office Real Estate.
Yeah.
Because we exclusively work on office buildings and turn them in, whether they're, and most of them, if not all of them, are old.
Yeah.
And old is something we'll come back to.
Yeah.
But we are trying to make all of those buildings into modern, competitive, reliable, versatile, and resilient assets in the long term.
Yeah. On behalf of the landlord, the tenant, who?
Yeah, so at the moment we are predominantly working with existing owners of real estate. So, and that be family offices, institutional investors, overseas, anyone who's got an existing asset and a problem and they're not quite sure how to solve that problem.
Yeah.
That is perfect for us. So we've got MO, real estate, because people in real estate like to be able to put you in a box. More's an odd name. Like, what does that mean? Modern office real estate. They're like, I get it.
That makes sense.
Cool. You do modern office buildings. Brilliant. More is also an attitude.
Right.
Like it's also a way of thinking about solving problems that is different. It's like, why do less?
Yeah.
Or why settle for less when you can have more? And it's really about us pushing ourselves out of our comfort zone and creating the right solutions for our clients because that's what they want.
And you've lived it. Why settle for less when you can have more?
Yeah.
I'll start my own business. You got the Aston Martin yet, though?
No. Drive a 2015 Audi A1.
I like me. I'm not
even my 5-year-old wants me to change it. I'm like, wait, it's got full wheels.
I'm the same. I'm not a car guy. I couldn't care less. People who have assets, potentially just they need to understand, they need to bring it back up into the modern world. And I'm going to go into the modern world in a few minutes, and specifically government regulations and stuff like that, which I do want to touch upon. But what is the typical client? What's their pain? When they come to you and go, fix this for me, what is it? What's that pain that they are experiencing?
The pain that they're experiencing is predominantly that they can't afford to upgrade their assets.
Which is your real estate bit.
In a conventional way. And by a conventional way, I sort of mean the lazy way, which is your building is no longer relevant in today's market. And the only way to make it relevant is either to make it best in class or to rip everything out and start again.
And sorry, I know I'm jumping in here because I'm really interested. I'm interested anyway. So, but what does that look like? So they're coming to you and going, right, this is not affordable. The refit on this is not going to be affordable. At this point, I'm assuming they haven't got a tenant, right? So they don't necessarily know who the tenant is. And by means of that, they don't know what the tenant strategy is. Is it a working from home strategy? Is it a flexible working? Is it a 3 and 2? Is it a everybody back to the office mandate? How do you juggle that? How do you juggle the conversation with the landlord to be able to provide a product where a tenant wants, when actually you don't know what the tenant wants at that point?
Yeah, or you don't even know who the tenant
or who the tenant is. Yeah.
So I'll give you a relatively live example. We're working with an existing owner on a building in the City of London. It is not in the centre of the City of London. It's kind of peripheral core,
right?
Which means it's not slap bang above a tube station, but it's kind of on the environs. And that building is, say, 60 years old. It is reaching end of life in terms of all of the existing services that were within the building. They've managed it over a period of time, so they've changed some of the M&E infrastructure within the building. And they're looking at it going, now, well, even if we spend a little bit more money on this building, in 4 years' time, it's going to fall off a cliff in terms of the minimum energy standards and EPC B and above. We look around and we're seeing everyone building towers, delivering amazing contemporary fitted workspace solutions.
Yeah,
and that's really that's expensive and capital intensive over the long term, because you're having tenants for 3 to 5 years, not 5 to 10.
Yeah.
And so they're sort of staring down the barrel of lots and lots and lots of decisions, and they're sort of dealing with I wouldn't necessarily say a situation they've never dealt with before, but they're dealing with a situation where they can't not do nothing, but they know they've got to do something.
Yeah.
But I would say most of the advisor consultancy world is advising them to do more.
Gotcha.
Not us.
Not yours. Yeah. Although that would be nice.
Yeah. So don't do more.
Yeah. Come to more.
Because what we can do is we can, with our team and our skill set and our ability to create the right business plan, the right investable solution for the project, is we can actually run them through lots of different scenarios. Say, you've got an option here, which is you knock it down and you rebuild it. Now, on paper, sure, that makes you loads of money, but actually there's loads of risks associated with that, loads of time associated with that. And in today's environment, actually, I think pretty much impossible from a planning perspective. And then at the other end of that is spend as little money as possible and cross your fingers. But between those two ends of the spectrum, there's thousands of different iterations.
Yeah.
What we will do is we'll really say there's one or two.
Gotcha.
And these one or two will give you a return on investment. They will give you a yield on cost of X.
Yeah.
But what we will do in that in-between space is really, really push the existing capabilities of the building.
Yeah.
And this is where I think we have a massive edge over the competition, which is most people will look at a building and say, your fit out's old, we're going to replace it. Your windows are old, we're going to replace those. You'll go down to the plant room, and then you're at the limit of most people's expertise. They're
Gotcha.
like, what am I even looking at?
Yeah.
And we know how buildings operate, how they should perform, and ultimately what kit of parts to replace to bring it up to modern standards without throwing the baby out with the bathwater. And perhaps most importantly in today's environment, most investments into existing buildings are in the M&E and the facade.
And I've seen you've got a lot of M&E experience with regards to some of the things that you've been deployed in past life and stuff like that, which is actually relevant. If we draw a timeline on this, right? So again, from the layman, somebody has an asset. They need to do something with it. To use your words, they don't know what that is, but they need to do something with it. They can't do nothing. They need to do more. What's the timeline here? So bring in expertise, filter 1,000 different options to 2. What then? What's this journey look like for return on investment?
So we can define what a potential solution might look like within 2 weeks.
Right.
And that process would typically take more than that.
Yeah.
And you would have to employ more specialists to do so.
So the fee that they're paying you is the return is received, or at least the plan is received within 2 weeks. And then the execution of the plan.
Depends how long the piece of string.
But then do you then continue to guide the execution as well? You bring in, design and build companies, you bring in, I don't know, M&E companies. Like what does that bit look like?
Yeah. So the projects are all tailor-made.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, so there could be
just the way it is, isn't it? Yeah.
It could be a 6-month project. It could be a 3-year project. But fundamentally, we can be as engaged in its delivery as much as the client wants. Ideally, we would want to be their advisor, consultant, manager to deliver the whole project for them, because we know the best people to be able to deliver those solutions. But we will appoint the design team. We will procure contracts around and do that in a way that best suits the outcome. So if there's 60% of the capital cost is in the M&E system within the building, we will go directly to the supply chain and speak with them about solving the problem, rather than going straight to, say, a main contractor and asking them to speak to a supply chain to get it. So we'll identify these big levers that ultimately helps reduce capital exposure into projects, helps speed them up. And we will do that for and on behalf of the existing.
This is a really interesting conversation, because one of the reasons I started the podcast in the first place is because we were seeing office managers just get led down the path. They were bringing in sometimes agents, as early as an agent, and then all of a sudden, before you know it, they're down this path of, here's the D&B firm that you're working with, here's the, above design build, here's the, you're going down the trad route, or you're going down this, and before you know it, they've moved in with this solution that actually they just started domino by bringing in an agent, and then all of a sudden they've got this whole thing going on without any control or knowledge or anything like that. So what you're articulating there is actually, let me guide that for you, because if you don't know what you don't know, you'll end up being this domino.
Yeah.
Would that be the right articulation?
I think there's yes, because what we've recognised is not through. It's through that it hasn't happened overnight. But through this process of design and build contracts being the go-to solution for delivering projects, in our case, refurbishments.
Yeah,
it's no longer it's really the only tool that you can use, because you can't construction manage projects, and you really shouldn't be doing them traditionally. So you're sort of stuck with design and build contracts. The issue is that now construction costs being so high because of material costs and volatility and general risks within existing buildings is you need to have at least checked off a couple of those things before you ideally engage with someone who's actually going to deliver those works for you. Because ultimately, if you're pricing in risk into projects, and because those risks are undefined, they come at a significant premium.
Yeah.
So you've got sort of two sides of the industry that don't really talk to one another, because of clearly a design, contractor isn't going to take risk that they can't see.
Yeah, yeah.
But if they're asked to price it, they'll price it.
Yeah, of course.
You've got someone on the other side of the fence going, that seems really high, right?
Yeah.
And they're going, well, so how do you expect a good outcome?
Yeah.
How do you expect a good outcome if you can't articulate and determine where the risks are?
Gotcha.
And then have designed a solution to those risks. And so by the way, there's sort of nothing wrong with either one of those. And spectrum. But what we're trying to do as a business is give our clients the best outcome. We're giving them great value for money because they're not paying for things that don't need doing. We're giving them a process that is institutionally run and professionally managed and completely independent as well.
Yeah.
Like we will tell our clients things they don't want to hear.
Yeah.
And we will also tell them when someone else is telling them things that aren't true.
Yeah.
And we will deliver that project as cost effectively and as quickly as possible. Like from our side, there's no downside.
Yeah, of course.
But it's having set up the business nearly 3 years ago and talking about the things that we're doing, it's almost only now that we're coming into a world where people are like, oh right, actually you're kind of, we need your help,
of course,
on this thing. And so I think what we're dealing with now is quite a live issue around risk management of projects. I suspect in a couple of, in a few years' time, the way in which we're doing things will perhaps become a bit more mainstream. But at the moment, it's slightly unconventional.
Understood. Hey, I hope you enjoyed the podcast so far. I'm just going to take a quick 30 seconds of your time to explain to you one of the biggest problems that people have when it comes to fitting out their new office space. And that problem is they get AV in too late. When you get AV in too late, what happens is they treat it as an afterthought. They treat it as a bolt-on. It's a few screens on a wall. Let's just put some screens on and make it work. Massive, massive, massive mistake. And we see it day in, day out, where people treat AV as an afterthought. To try and avoid that mistake, you need to bring AV in, the design of AV in really early as you possibly can. Now, to try and help you with that, we've put together what we call an AV bundle. It's a bundle. The link is in the description below, and it gives you the ability to configure your own AV meeting room so you know what solution you're putting in the rooms. It gives you a risk map for the project so you know when to bring AV in, and it gives you a budget calculator so that you can budget AV in early as opposed to later when you realize that AV, frankly, isn't as cheap as what everybody thinks. So grab the bundle below, get AV in as early as you possibly can, and avoid the mistakes that lots of our clients actually do when it comes to refitting their offices. Let's do the retrofit. You've explained about the knocking a building down versus retrofit. I mean, all of your bio, I had some nice nighttime reading all of the things on you last night, but all of your bio lends itself a lot towards the benefits of refit as opposed to knock down and start again. The government guidelines on, what's the terminology? MEAS, is it?
Minimum.
Here we go. I'm testing.
Here we go. I only know what our acronym means.
I can Google it. But,
Let's go Google.
But the government are the energy efficiency standards essentially for commercial real estate in the UK is that commercial real estate needs to meet an energy efficiency standard of B by 2027. I think I'm right in saying
2030.
This. 2030, pardon me. So 2030. But 80% of commercial real estate at the moment will not meet, are not at that standard. 2030 is only 4 years away. Where are we on this? And by the way, if you don't reach that standard, there's a minimum £150,000 fine for not reaching that standard. And and I don't know what the maximum is, depends on the company size and all this kind of stuff. Where are we with this? How do you take a building, knowing that you've got to meet these energy standards? It's a Victorian grade 2 listed building. Like, just unpack this for me, because I can't get my head around it.
Yeah, so really simply, to get to that level of energy efficiency of an existing office building, whether it's Victorian or even if it was built 2010, because you've got the same issues. Well, you've got the same issue, which is that they use gas as their primary source of heating within the building. So at a really, really simple fundamental level, we are replacing a boiler with an air source heat pump.
Right.
So degassing the building to give it a better carbon performance in the long term.
Yeah.
Now, clearly, we're in a world where if you move from a boiler to an air source heat pump, this might get a little bit technical, but I'll try to simplify it, is the heating element of an air source heat pump can't get to the same levels as gas.
Right.
So effectively your boiler, your air source heat pump now, would run for longer and at a higher intensity to maintain the same levels of thermal comfort within the building.
Okay.
So because of that, then you go into having to upgrade the thermal performance of the building in some way, shape or form.
Yeah.
So that'd be changing windows, increasing insulation,
Yeah.
et cetera. These things are actually really, really simple, but they're just made more complicated by the kit of parts that sit within buildings. So if you're moving from a boiler to an air source heat pump and you've got, say, something like fan coil units on your floor, the temperature of the going to the fan coil unit won't be high enough with an air source heat pump but it would have been fine with a boiler. So what happens is when you change from a boiler to an air source heat pump, traditionally you say, well, actually you've got to rip everything else out because you've got a different temperature and it doesn't work and the incompatibility isn't there and it's not what we would do.
And then that's that massive capital expenditure risk, right? So you've got 80%. I'm not going to hit that number by 2030. And so in my mind, I'm sat there going, if I own an asset and the government is asking me to make this massive investment into energy efficient buildings, am I getting I own the asset, right? It has to make me money. Mm-hmm. Am I getting a return on that? And is that why only 20% of corporate buildings are actually going to hit that mark?
No, so I think we're
going to go into that.
There's a lot of psychology around it, and actually, you had the same thing with landlords and regulations. Is that everyone just kicks the can down the road, and all of this is going to happen in 2029, probably. But the reality is that so what I believe happens is even the most proactive, forward-looking landlords look at what they need to do. And they say, I've got a whole range of experts at my disposal to be able to solve this problem for me. I'll go ask them what we need to do. Yeah. And they'll go speak to an agent and they'll say, well, your agent says, well, to make this lettable, you need to do X, Y, and Z. And then you say, right, I've got that. So to make it lettable, you need to do these 3 things. I'll take those 3 things and then I'll give it to a consultant. Yeah. And that consultant will say, well, to do those 3 things, we need to do all of these things. And you go, okay, seems like a lot of stuff.
Now we're at 12 things.
And then now I'll get someone to cost it, and then they'll cost it, and they'll cost it, and the cost will come back, and it's like, oh, well, I can't afford to do that because actually the juice isn't worth the squeeze. Of course. What we do is we have enough experience to manage all of that process, but we understand how the market thinks about product. Yeah. As in, like, what are you? Who's your customer? What are you selling with your workplace solution? Yeah. But we also understand how a 4-pipe fan coil works. And we're also close enough to the industry to know how much these things should cost. Yeah. We know how to procure it. And we know the right people. So we don't, if someone calls us and says, we would like you to, oh, hey, we found you, we've heard you're the faster, cheaper guys, which is coming around a bit, but that's fine. we can do all of this in-house.
Yes, gotcha.
And sure, we won't be 100% right, but we'll be 95% of the way there.
Yeah.
And we'll come up with a solution that says, you replaced your air source heat pumps 2 years ago. Now, if you go speak to a consultant, they'll probably tell you the best thing to do would be to stick those in the bin, because the compatibility with your new systems won't be AAA grade efficient.
Yeah.
And we'll be like, well, guys, you're not aiming for AAA grade efficiency because you're in a really tricky sub-market.
Yeah.
And your ERVs are like £70 a foot, not £95 a foot. So we know you can't do that, but by the way, you shouldn't be doing that because that's not your market.
Yeah.
So we're the connective tissue that sits in between all of these things.
I understand.
It comes up with, like, we don't come up with the business plan that costs the most money. We don't come up with the business plan that costs the least money. We come up with the right size solution with what's right. And by the way, to get to an EPC D to an EPC B, you need to change the lights and switch your boiler to an air source heat pump. And that's about it.
Yeah.
And if anyone is telling you need to do more,
well, this is the scaremonger. In fact, this is the point of the podcast, right? So I'm the layman, and I'm going, guys, there's 80% not going to be, not going to meet the standards and all this kind of stuff. But what you're saying is actually, it's not that bad. With the right guidance, with the right support, with the right advice, it's not that bad.
No, it isn't. But being able to say that you can prove with evidence how those investments work on performance of the asset.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, you've just be making a poor decision.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, and this is when we talk about projects, and you ask the question, our projects are long.
Yeah.
Like, our projects are not a couple of weeks. If we're involved in a building end to end, you are talking a minimum of 18 months.
When you say end to end, what's the end? Move in, PC? Or do you then continue to gather? Is the solution that we provided the right solution? So we're going to gather the data over the next 3, 4, 5 years, and then we're going to get back around the table and we're going to talk about that. Yeah. What's the end?
Yeah, end to end, I would say. So from being able to define a solution, to come up with a strategy, to completing the works.
Gotcha.
I would say is 18 months.
Yeah.
Might be shorter if the scope is limited to one floor within a building.
Yeah.
It would obviously be less time. But if we're involved in, say, the leasing of that building as well, then and that's time on top of that.
Yeah.
The real issue is that even if you're looking at projects being delivered today, they're not being delivered on today's rules. They're being delivered on the rules that were in play 3, 4, 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So the way in which these projects have been managed hasn't really caught up with the economic environment that we're in.
Yeah.
Which means that when most investors are taking projects to committee, or asset owners are deciding what they want to do, and they go out to the market and they take the temperature on the market and say, well, how much is a project going to cost me if I'm replacing the boiler with an air source heat pump, and I go from EPCD to EPCA, and I change the windows, and I add a story on top, or I do this? Like, everyone's getting really, really shocked about how much money that's costing.
Yeah.
And so you're at a point where you get inertia, because projects are costing too much money for them to be deliverable.
Yeah.
But as you've highlighted, in 4 years' time, if nothing happens with those assets, they're going to be obsolete. It's a really interesting time, because fundamentally the way in which we're trying to deliver successful business plans has completely changed.
Yeah, of course.
And to find the solution is no longer about just employing a set of consultants to come up with the solution. It's like you have to understand every single piece of detail that they're producing, and then how it influences the business plan.
Yeah, it's a fascinating conversation, and like I said, it's something that I'm actually genuinely interested in as well, because I'm like, and another thing, but then I'm looking at the clock and I'm going, I can't keep going, I can't keep going with this. So package it. We've spoken a lot, right, around the benefit that you bring to the conversation. I'm Sally, asset owner, and I don't necessarily know what I don't know. Package more up into a nice little kind of soundbite for me. Why would Sally come and speak to you?
So Sally would come to speak to us because we fix broken buildings. And that means that we operate in a way that is we're your technical toolkit. It's always a bit of a Swiss Army knife.
Yeah, yeah.
You ask us any question about your building and we should be able to know the answer to it. And if we don't know the answer, then we'll find someone who does know the answer.
Yeah.
But what you will get from us is completely independent advice. And we will find a way of spending the right amount of money and taking the right amount of time to deliver this project. If your driver is program, then we will find a way to do that.
Yeah.
If you want to find a more cost-effective way of getting the same outcome, we'll be able to design that to you. So we're an outcome-driven business.
Yeah.
We want happy clients. We want happy investors. And fundamentally, back to some of the things I was saying before, is like we will put ourselves in the locker to make those things happen. Not because we'll charge a client more to do that, because that's how we're built.
But the outcome is the driver. The mission is the driver.
Yeah.
And whatever it takes, you got to do it. Like you're cycling. I'm sure you've been sat at a Tourmalet or something and thought, what the hell am I doing here? Do you know what I mean? So
to give you a really practical example, one of the projects we're working on at the moment, which is really big refurbishment of an existing listed building in the City of London. We built a business plan from a capital investment perspective.
Yeah.
Was 40% more cost effective than the next person that was asked to do that.
Yeah.
And we were questioned as to
why.
Well, how can you do it? How can you possibly do it cheaper than everyone else? Because we understand the building.
Yeah.
We know how old the chiller is. We know how old the pipework is. We know how the building is serviced. We know how old the windows are. We've been on the planning portal. We've been on the online EPC register.
Yeah.
We are okay. We might be plus or minus 5-10% on this number, but it's a number that
still a lot less than that.
We would stand by, and that's because we've done our work on it.
Yeah,
and that's because a lot of the industry, rightly or wrongly, focuses on the things that they know. So when a project is over budget, someone says, let's value engineer it. The things that get value engineered, all the nice things, like all the fixtures, all the finishes, all the things that you can touch.
GAV,
see.
When we get dragged in at the end.
Or just
make it work.
Make it work.
All right, okay. I mean, what budget have we got? You want video conferencing? You got a town hall space? Just, you're the expert, Chris, make it work. Well, hold on.
What no one really properly value engineers is the engineering. No one is looking at saying, why are we replacing that buzz?
Yeah.
Like that. Why are we replacing the lift when the lift is from 2016? And actually, the better way to refurbish it would be to overhaul the lifting gear, maybe change the finishes, keep the car.
Yeah,
it's fine. And the reality is 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, it was cheaper to rip something out than to put it.
It's crazy, isn't it?
To replace parts of it. Now, you can't afford to just rip it out. So we're exploiting that niche.
Gotcha.
Which is we do more work for less fee than the competition. But that's fine because we love it.
Yeah, and also at the same time, the client is getting the commercial benefit of that because you're actually doing your due diligence on the engineering as opposed to just let's value engineer it.
Yeah, and we have, say in this building in the city, we have 11 lifts in that building, right? They were all refurbished at different points in time and they do different things. For each set of lifts within the building, there's a different strategy.
Yeah.
Some are being replaced. Some were overhauling the lifting gear. Some were just, there's, they're goods lifts, so they just get a bit of, liquid paint or whatever. Like that, we're looking at each one on its own merit.
Yeah.
And that's fine. We can do that because we also understand the questions to ask and how we can get to the right solution because we're experienced. But the competition doesn't have that experience because they're sat there with spreadsheets or doing different things or actually just involved in a different part of the industry.
Yeah.
So we can solve that problem and don't worry, we'll come up with the best solution for you.
Yeah, I'm with you. Look, Ben, time's getting on, and as much as what I've enjoyed the conversation, and I absolutely wanted to talk to you about cycling, but unfortunately, I do want to ask toughest ride. What's the moment you were in the locker from an endurance and you sat on a saddle and you're like, what the hell am I doing here?
Right. Okay. You'll understand some of the things that I've said on this. So must be 10, it's at least 10 years ago now. Do you know what the Festive 500 is?
Yeah.
The Festive, you got to do 500 kilometers.
It's they do one in Scotland, don't they? Yeah.
So you do over the Christmas period between sort of like Christmas Eve and New Year's Day. You need to do 500 kilometers, and it's 10 days.
Right.
I wanted to do it in 2.
Brilliant.
And so I cycled. So I set off. I was living in Greenwich at the time. Set off on my bike.
Right.
Like -7 outside. Water bottle froze halfway up to Lincoln.
Oh Christ!
So I cycled to Lincoln.
Yeah.
One day. Next day, got on my bike, turned back, cycled back. And it was on that ride on the way back that I was just like, this hurts.
What am I doing?
I almost gave up at Milton Keynes.
Did you?
And that was like the hardest ride. But what I did is I got back to central London. I got on the train. I really wanted to get home. I really just wanted to actually cycle the whole way home, but I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And I realized that it wasn't that the task was too big, but mentally I'd just broken myself.
Yeah.
And that was in preparation for a ride that I was doing in northern Spain, 10 days, 2,400 kilometers over 10 days with 48,000 meters of climbing.
Jesus Christ. Brutal.
Yeah. And so that was basically my training ride for that. Well, obviously
it's
lots
brutal.
of them.
Yeah.
And I just was like, there's just no way I can do that ride if this is how I feel. I've done X, Y, and Z. And so you just, you go back, you put yourself together, you train harder.
Yeah.
And that ride that I ended up doing in northern Spain was just like the best.
Was it really?
Best event of my life.
Good for you.
I'd got past that ridiculous part of pain. And actually I was able to really enjoy the ride. That sounds crazy. I was doing 240 kilometers a day.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Nearly 5,000 meters of climbing a day, and I was enjoying it.
Mad. I signed up for the 312 a couple of years. Actually, my kids are 2 now, so probably 4 years ago maybe. And we had some rough news in the build up to the 312. And unfortunately couldn't do it because the training just went out the window, and this news just didn't allow me to actually do any training. And we went on holiday to Mallorca instead, and sat there and watched the 312 guys go past. And I went and did a few of the hills and stuff, and I was just like, there is no way I could have done this within the time frame, because it's really quite an aggressive time frame. I was just like, there is no way I could have done that. So it's one of those, just like, goodness me, not thank God for the bad news, but thank God that I didn't actually put myself into a position where I was going to fail.
Yeah.
So I feel your pain. Look, Ben, we need to round up. Thank you for the chat.
Yep.
Thank you for the insights. I'm sure Sally will thank you for the insights as well. How can people get hold of you if they've got a requirement to seek your expertise? How can they get hold of you?
So website, email, really easy. It's ben@everythingmore.com. but you can also find me on LinkedIn.
Brilliant. Ben, absolute pleasure. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Great. Hope you enjoyed the podcast, and I certainly enjoyed having that guest on. Now, in order for us to close this podcast out, what I want to do is just highlight to you that we're an AV company. That's pretty clear. But what we do with a lot of our clients is we offer them showroom visits, basically. So we quite often go around a lot of the showrooms that are available to us. We're doing a big LED showroom visit. So if you want to come and see some of the latest LED technology that you can deploy within your meeting room, we're doing a big LED showroom visit over the coming weeks. The date's not fully confirmed yet, but we have put together a wait list. The link to that wait list is in the description below. If you're interested in coming along and seeing the latest LED and what you can deploy within your office space and the art of the possible when it comes to LED, click the link below, join the wait list. When we've got the date confirmed for our showroom visit, we'll then invite you to that showroom. We'll show you what the art of the possible is. For now, hope you enjoyed the podcast. Like, subscribe, click the notification bell so that you see the next one as well.